Here I am making this video in the middle of the year of 2025. Breath of the Wild is quite possibly my favorite Switch title. My sister gave it to me as a gift for my birthday. She was either going to gift me Breath of the Wild or Mario Kart, but she chose Breath of the Wild because she said that Mario Kart is a multiplayer game and I don't have a lot of friends. I believe I played Breath of the Wild in 2018, and back then I wasn't nearly as experienced a gamer as I am now. To me, I had never really played a Zelda before, and Nintendo just made easy kids games, so of course I would breeze through Zelda easily. Alas, I died many a time and came to fall in love with the Nintendo Switch and Breath of the Wild, putting 130 hours into the game. So when Tears of the Kingdom was announced, I was super hyped and bought the game on release night. There's just one problem though. I'm now making this video in 2025 and Tears of the Kingdom came out on May 12th, 2023, so nearly 2 years later I am making this video on my playthrough of the game. Basically, my problem is the same as anyone else's. It's a phenomenal game, but it just doesn't do enough things different from Breath of the Wild. But in 2025, I decided to come back where I had left off, which was just a bit after the intro where you go into the first round-shaped village and try my hand at beating Ganondorf, the semi-complex puzzles, and the survival aspect between snow-covered peaks and lava-y mountains. In this game, at the beginning, I found that I didn't have enough hearts or stamina for a lot of things, which seems to be a theme in open world games. You start off very weak, and by the end you are kinda OP. This was kind of a problem for me, but by the point of me returning to this game, I had already completed the Bird Kingdom stuff, so there were some places I avoided, such as this tower guarded by a ton of monsters, and made my way to the Volcano Mountain where I fought Yunobo, who was corrupted by a false Zelda, had an insanely epic fight while in flight against some volcanic dragons, and made my way to the Fire Temple where I progressed pretty smoothly until eventually I ran into a hiccup. Basically, to get to a higher floor in this dungeon, you have to ride mine carts on rails, but I couldn't figure out how exactly to do that, so I walked across the rails. Yes, I walked, I didn't ride a cart. Like, I was fiddling around with it for so long, I never really did figure out the right way to get to the top floor. I just walked along the cart rails, and then I climbed and climbed up the side of the structure until I reached the top, and it is in this way that I managed to clear the dungeon. For me personally, this was the lamest dungeon in this game. The design was just very vertical and multiple rail carts leading to other places, then some not leading to where you need to go at all, made this dungeon super complicated to traverse. There was multiple points where I fell down and had to make my way all the way back to the top, but generally my main tactic if a rail cart didn't take me directly where I needed to go is I walked on the rails and climbed up the side of the structure. I will say though that I'm fairly proud I was able to beat this one without any guides or anything. I really think as I get older I'm becoming more capable mentally. Which I want to say that this game is one of my favorite experiences I've had gaming. The game really is quite unique. The boss fight here consisted of me rolling my Goron buddy up a wall and knocking the boss off the ceiling. While he was rolling, I climbed up explosive rocks and used my gliding boost bird buddy, beep beep beep, to engage evasive maneuvers. Then when he fell on the floor, I would climb up his body and hit his vulnerable spot, which was his eyeball. I just think it's so cool that they combined all these factors in this fight. We get a cutscene after beating this dude, which basically gives us some lore and like the Goron guy's spirit stone. So he's our companion now. After that whole ordeal out of the way, all of the Gorons are no longer druggies and Ganon has been cleansed from this land. So I continued my adventure, which in my opinion, what makes Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom such great adventures is the whole experience. Like, not one singular aspect, but the whole picture. I'm basically a huge gaming nerd, so I made some theoretical stuff in my head based on the games I've made videos on. In my Elden Ring video, I said that game was the grandest adventure I've been on. However, I would like to rephrase that statement now. Tears of the Kingdom is the greatest adventure, Elden Ring is the greatest crafted world, and Red Dead 2 is the most detailed. In Elden Ring, you're exploring this vast world and fighting bosses. In Tears of the Kingdom, you're exploring a vast world and fighting bosses too, but you are also just doing whatever. Whether it be making weird constructions, doing arrow shooting time trials, or just finding a haunting ghost in a field while also solving puzzles and stuff. After a while of just doing this in this one huge magical world, I really started to fall in love with this game. I think I like it more than Breath of the Wild. I really am considering doing a no teleport playthrough once the Switch 2 comes out. Have any of you guys done a no teleport run in Tears of the Kingdom? I'm a bit unsure about how feasible it is to do compared to Breath of the Wild. Eventually, I find my way to a Goron stuck in a cave, and I attach a wind fan and a rocket to a cart and send this mother flying. This was so ridiculous. One notable side adventure I went on before going to the next dungeon was in the ocean. There was a bunch of pirate ships full of monsters. I went there and took a bunch out. I fell into the water at one point but climbed back up. It was also thunderstorming, so I couldn't use any metallic weapons, shields, or armor, or else I would get struck by lightning. I saw a large group of the monsters behind a barricade, and I attached a railgun to my shield, glided over to them, and started blasting. I ran out of charges after a couple of shots and climbed up to a spot where the monsters couldn't reach me, then reassessed the situation. I picked off the weaklings in the back, then finished off the big dude with arrows. It's experiences like this that makes this game awesome. Moving forward, I headed to the waterfish people area. These guys were dealing with some serious pollution problems. I mean, look at this water, absolutely filthy. So I put on my detective glasses and got to work. I mean, I'm more of an IT guy myself, but when it comes to water pollution of this scale, everyone has to help out. I make my way up to a sky island and shoot an arrow through what appears to be a teardrop, and that is a part of the puzzle solved. From this sprouts a huge waterfall that I can use to get to the dungeon. In this dungeon, gravity isn't as prevalent as it usually is, so I'm jumping like I'm on the moon and floating around in water balls to different platforms. In this part of the game, I have to get 5 pillars to flow with clean water to clear the sludge affecting this place, which didn't actually take me terribly long to do. I went to the lower floor, protected myself with a water shield to get past the flame gate, then used an item to keep pressure on the pressure plate. Then I used recall on a gravity defying rock to get the ball I needed across the gap. This section was really just all ultra hand and recall. The part I had the most difficulty with was trying to get this water ball onto this spinning cylindrical thing. I had a whole platform to get close to it, but eventually I figured out that a slow motion arrow to hit the thing was all I needed to do. It really is the most simple solution a lot of time in these games. So I went on to the boss fight of this place, and in the first phase of the fight, it was pretty easy. It mainly consisted of me hitting him in his shark form, then hitting him as he ran around helplessly. Then his second phase was actually quite difficult. This mother was straight playing Splatoon out here. He put oil on the floor and quickly traversed through it. I had to land an arrow shot on his small, fast-moving body, then close the gap in order to do damage to him. He actually ended up killing me. On my next try, I knew what to expect of the mechanics of the fight, and I beat him fairly cleanly. I once again get a cutscene and my water fish buddy companion that I can use to fight with me for the rest of the game. Then I headed my butt over to the desert. One of the first things I did was go to the Oasis and check the top of the inn to see how it differed from Breath of the Wild. I think in Breath of the Wild you get a clue on how to get the female armor set to sneak into Gerudo City, but in Tears of the Kingdom it's simply an outlook, which I then used to head toward Gerudo City. Once I got there, I found an empty city full of super tanky monsters, and I knew that they must have bunkered down somewhere. Shortly afterward, I found a tunnel and tried to climb a rope connected to a pot. If only there was some mechanic the game gave me to traverse to the floor above me. Eventually, I figured out I can use Ascend and surprised all the ladies, but they accepted me. They said that I was the hero and they would allow me to help around despite me being a filthy Vo. I meet up with Riju, who has grown quite a bit since the first game, and we form a party. I connect 3 light towers in the sandstorm, reveal the desert pyramid, and thus I begin my final dungeon, or so I thought. The start of the dungeon has you fighting the final boss, and I want to say that throughout this game, I was high-key carried by the bow and arrows. Anytime I couldn't get any kind of melee opening and just couldn't get a safe attack in, I just started spamming arrows, which is what I did a lot of for this boss given the fact that she can one-shot me. I get her to half HP and she retreats into the desert pyramid. I will say that I think this was my favorite dungeon in this game. I didn't like the desert storm aspect of this area that much, but I did like the dungeon. You know, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Okay, I'm going to get analytical here and actually explain this dungeon. Wish me freaking luck, man. The beginning, you run into the flame towers, and I spent 20 years wondering how to get past them, and it's literally just a sprint past thing. There are a ton of booby traps in this pyramid thing that I have to navigate through, including a burning fireball, floors falling out from underneath me, and enemies that are only vulnerable to elemental attacks. Once you make it to the main area, you have to shine light onto these green things. There are 5 of these green things that need a light shown onto. For the first light, I elevated a light transmitting the device, then angled the light in the correct formation through 3 pillars, dove through a trap-filled tunnel, and used Riju's power to light the thingy-majingy, which took me some time to realize that I needed to use Riju's ability to complete each individual light puzzle. Essentially, I did something along those lines 5 times and made very steady progress. In the boss fight, I once again mainly relied on bow and arrow attacks. When the Gibdo Queen got stunned, I tried to hit her with a flurry of attacks, and I beat her after a while. By this point in the game, I feel like I had so many highs and lows. I was frequently comparing this to Breath of the Wild. In my memory, I thought Breath of the Wild had more detail in the Gerudo town, and I found navigating the sandstorm to be unfun, but the pyramid dungeon was better than the Divine Beast. In other words, I thought the games traded blows with each other, which was kind of unacceptable given they used the same map and had a 6-year development cycle. I went on to Hyrule Castle to fight Ganondorf, and was severely disappointed. I remember there being so much more detail in this castle in the first game, not to mention the fact that they made this dungeon linear now. You have to follow Zelda. Instead of exploring the castle from any angle at your own pace, I got to the final boss and this was genuinely creepy. They had an uncanny Zelda and a demon giant ghost thing. Combine that with the underground area and the complexity of the puzzles, I don't see this being a kid's game at all. I don't know though, maybe kids are built different these days.
Such an indirect approach is no longer needed. End this hero's life, my dark servant. Cut him down.
I fought Ganondorf and I got whooped, bro. Bro took me out and I had to try again. And this second time, I wasn't messing around. I speedran him with ease, and when he fell, I was ready for the third phase, but then I realized this wasn't a FromSoft game, and it turned out I still had a long way to go before I was going to beat Tears of the Kingdom. Throughout my playthrough, I didn't vibe with the underground a lot. In fact, I quite disliked it. I don't know why they thought adding a ginormous map where you can't see anything would be a good idea, but I started to explore it because it was necessary. I got the 5th power, which is auto building, and I did enjoy the antics of the Yiga clan. Seeing the dragons in the depths was ironically one of the coolest moments I had in this game. Speaking of dragons, I don't believe I mentioned the Master Sword. The Master Sword was stuck to this dragon, and you had to pull it from its head, which then left you in some kind of heavenly sky area. This moment was actually emotional and beautiful for me. I really feel like no game depicts the mysticalness of dragons as well as Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So, after spending like 20 hours searching for Ganondorf in the depths, I just used Google to find where he was located, which was underneath Hyrule Castle, but I swear I looked underneath there earlier and didn't find him, but it's whatever. I traversed throughout. I would describe it as a mini dungeon. Everything here does gloom damage to you, which I had no gloom resistant food. Eventually I made my way down to Ganondorf, dying quite a bit. I swear when I get near the end of a game, I just start to rush it and get excited to finish it. I got to the army of monsters and they killed me multiple times as I had no way to heal up, but by playing defensively and letting my allies take the aggro, I was able to beat all of the waves and get to the fight with Ganondorf. Then, in this fight, I was just straight Elden Ring mode. I literally had 3 hearts and thought that I could beat him if I played well enough. I wasn't able to do this, then I cooked a singular meal using a portable pot and tried to beat him over and over with my 1 gloom food. I think I actually had one attempt where I got him to half HP in his second phase form. Eventually, I decided it would be quicker to load an older save and properly gear up for this fight. I went to all the villages, got plenty of arrows, food, and cooking ingredients. Then I teleported to most of the sky islands that I had been to and gathered Sundalions. Then I went back and just skipped through all of the monsters in the mini dungeon, played defensively in the monster wave phase, and started to fight Ganondorf again with like 20 gloom foods. I was pretty good at getting flurry rushes for whenever he was using a 2-handed weapon. My flow of combat was to flurry rush his 2-handed weapons, then follow it up with some bomb arrows to his face. When he reached his second phase, I continued this tactic and let my allies take his clones. Then in his third phase, I generally couldn't find many openings at all, so I mostly, once again, just got carried by my arrows. I mean, it was like you attack him and he evades it. I just got lucky with the occasional flurry rush and had used up nearly all of my gloom food by the time I beat him. Then he has like a 4th phase and you have a dragon v dragon battle, which was so epic. I was flying in the sky and hitting his vulnerable points on his body. after beating him, Rauru heals the dragon and the dragon transforms into Zelda. And you have to catch her falling from the sky. Sometimes in life, someone does something special for you, and you have to rise up and believe in something greater, to do something you normally wouldn't be capable of doing for their sake. Catching Zelda was one of these moments. To me, this ending was epic and kind of emotional. Zelda spent all this time asleep and nurturing the sword so you could one day defeat the Demon King, and you actually beat him in the most epic way possible.
So much to tell you. So much happened. Oh, Link. I'm home.
Overall, I think I can see the big picture, how the underground and sky islands connect with each other. I think the sky islands were a bit empty and the underground was a bit of a pain, but they were relevant to the whole picture of the game. I had a ton of ups and downs with this game, but I also think that this is probably the game that the Zelda developers always wanted Breath of the Wild to be. And I think I will definitely revisit Tears of the Kingdom with the higher graphics and frame rates of the Switch 2. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to check out my Elden Ring video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.